There are losses in tennis that hurt because you were beaten, and then there are losses that leave you wondering what might have happened if the body had simply given you a little more. Alex Eala's Cincinnati defeat felt like the second kind. She had already conquered 9 of the world's best players. She had just won the biggest title of her career. She had built a 5-match winning streak against top 10 opposition, and she arrived in Cincinnati as the 17th seed at a WTA 1000 event, the highest seeding of her career. Everything pointed toward another statement victory. Instead, in just 2 hours and 28 minutes, the entire match turned upside down. Eala took the opening set. She led 2-0 in the deciding set. She was only 5 points away from another enormous victory. And then, almost without warning, the match disappeared from her hands. Amanda Anisimova won 6 games in a row, closing out a dramatic 4-6, 6-3, 6-2 battle, and leaving Eala walking away from the Cincinnati court with one of the most painful defeats of her young career. But here is where the story becomes much more interesting. The scoreboard suggested a collapse. The deeper numbers suggested something else entirely, because behind those 6 consecutive games was a story of exhaustion, accumulated workload, and a young player who may simply have been pushed beyond the limits of what her body could reasonably handle. Eala had not just arrived in Cincinnati tired. She had arrived carrying an enormous amount of tennis on her shoulders. And ESPN's analysis highlighted just how extraordinary that workload had become. The Filipina had played 56 matches since the beginning of the season, making her the most active player on the WTA Tour according to the materials surrounding the match. She had also played 8 matches across 12 days in 2 countries before stepping onto the Cincinnati court. Washington had demanded 5 matches from her. Toronto added another 3. Then came Cincinnati, where Anisimova was waiting. On paper, it was a battle between 2 dangerous players with completely different stories. Anisimova, the world number 10 and 9th seed, was searching desperately for confidence. The former world number 3 and 2-time Grand Slam finalist had struggled against top 20 opposition throughout the season, entering Cincinnati with a 1-6 record against top 20 opponents in 2026 and 5 consecutive losses against that level of competition. She had played only 20 matches all year because of injuries. Eala, meanwhile, represented the opposite. She was the player riding momentum. She had beaten some of the biggest names in the sport, including Jessica Pegula, Elena Rybakina, and Elena Svitolina, and she had already established herself as one of the most dangerous young players on tour. That made the opening set even more revealing. The match immediately became a physical and mental battle, and the 5th game turned into something almost absurd. It lasted 20 minutes and 11 seconds. There were 13 deuces. Anisimova created 8 breakpoint opportunities. For more than 20 minutes, Eala had to defend herself against wave after wave of pressure. Every time she looked close to escaping, Anisimova came back. Every point became another test of concentration, movement, and endurance. And Eala refused to surrender. She saved herself, held serve, and somehow walked away from the longest battle of the set with a 3-2 lead. At the time, it looked like another example of the resilience that had carried her through so many difficult matches. Later, it looked like the first warning sign, because Eala had survived the war, but survival has a price. The American eventually broke Eala at love in the 7th game to move ahead 4-3, but the Filipina responded exactly as she had so many times before. She broke straight back. She held. Then, in the 10th game, she put pressure on Anisimova's serve and closed out the opening set. 67 minutes had passed. Eala had won the set, but she had also spent 67 minutes fighting for every inch of the court. The first set alone was longer than many complete professional matches. That matters because tennis does not reset simply because the scoreboard changes. Every sprint, every recovery, every extended rally, every breakpoint saved, and every emotional surge stays inside the body. Eala had been forced to run, chase, and defend for enormous stretches, while Anisimova was being pushed to rediscover her own rhythm. And yet, Eala had done what champions do. She found a way to win the set when the match was at its most difficult. But the second set brought the first clear sign that the balance was beginning to shift. Both players held through the opening 6 games, leaving the score tied at 3-3. Then, Anisimova found the opening she needed. She converted her first break opportunity of the set in the 7th game and moved ahead 4-3. This time, she did not give the advantage back. She held in the 8th game, creating a 5-3 cushion, and eventually forced the deciding set. Suddenly, the The match was no longer about whether Eala could maintain her momentum. It was about whether she had enough left to finish the job. And then came the moment that made the eventual collapse so shocking. Eala opened the third set brilliantly. She held serve in the first game. Then she broke Anisimova. 2-0. The Filipina was ahead 2-0. The comeback was hers to make. She was only 5 points away from another massive victory, one that would have pushed her record against top 10 opponents to 10-4. Think about what that would have meant. Another top 10 scalp. Another confirmation that her recent rise was not a temporary hot streak. Another message to the rest of the WTA that Alex Eala had become a genuine threat at the highest level. But the match had already demanded too much from her. The warning signs had been there from the opening set, buried beneath the adrenaline and determination. And now, with the pressure at its highest, the body finally began collecting the debt. Eala never won another game. Anisimova suddenly found another level, while Eala's momentum vanished. The American won 6 consecutive games to close the match. At one point, Eala held a 40-5 lead in the 5th game of the 3rd set, seemingly on the verge of moving deeper into the set, but she could not close it. She dropped the next 4 points, allowing Anisimova to move ahead 3-2. From there, the American took control completely. The final game ended with Eala being shut out, and a match that had looked destined to become another chapter in her incredible rise suddenly became a painful lesson in the limits of human endurance. Anisimova had completed the turnaround, and Eala's 5-match winning streak against top 10 opposition was gone. But even the winner seemed to understand what Eala had been carrying. After the match, Anisimova spoke about the challenge of facing her opponent and praised her fighting qualities, acknowledging that Eala was a tough player and that she understood how loved the Filipina had become. For Anisimova, it was an important victory. For Eala, it was a devastating defeat. But the deeper story was only beginning to emerge, because when the numbers were examined, the question was no longer simply, how did Alex Eala lose a match she was leading 2-0 in the final set? The more important question became, how much tennis had Alex Eala already played before she ever stepped onto that Cincinnati court? The answer was staggering. 56 matches since the beginning of the year. 8 matches in 12 days across 2 countries. 5 matches in Washington. 3 more in Toronto. Then Cincinnati. And this came during a period when the 21-year-old was already becoming one of the most recognizable young stars in the sport. The pressure was no longer just coming from opponents. It was coming from expectations, travel, tournaments, media attention, exhibitions, and the enormous momentum surrounding her rise. She had become a player everyone wanted to watch, which is a dream for any athlete. But being wanted everywhere comes with a hidden cost. There are only so many hours in a day, only so many matches the body can absorb, and only so much recovery a player can get before the next challenge arrives. Tennis analyst Liam McMillan, writing for Tennis 365 and Yahoo Sports, raised exactly that concern, arguing that Eala could face what is essentially 8 straight weeks of tennis if she advanced deep into the US Open. His warning was blunt. That kind of schedule is unsustainable for anyone, regardless of age. And for a 21-year-old player still developing physically and building a career at the highest level, the concern becomes even more significant. What made the situation even more complicated was Eala's involvement in additional events around the US Open. She had agreed to participate in a mixed doubles exhibition with Felix Auger-Aliassime, as well as a Stars of the Open exhibition match against Eva Jovic at Arthur Ashe Stadium. These events may not carry WTA ranking points, but they still require a body to compete, move, travel, prepare, and recover. That is why Cincinnati may ultimately become more than a disappointing loss. It may become the warning that arrives at exactly the right time. Because sometimes a defeat does not destroy a season. Sometimes it protects it. Eala's Cincinnati exit gives her something that victory would not have given her: time. The US Open begins on August 30th in Flushing Meadows, New York, meaning Eala now has nearly 2 weeks to step away from competition, recover her energy, and prepare for the final Grand Slam of the season. After the way Cincinnati ended, those days could be more valuable than another round of ranking points. She needs her body to recover. She needs her mind to reset. And she needs to remember that the player who stood at 2-0 in the 3rd set did not suddenly forget how to play tennis. She was simply running out of fuel. That distinction matters, because a true collapse caused by a lack of ability is one thing. A collapse caused by exhaustion is something else entirely. Eala has already shown that she can beat elite opponents. She has already shown that she can survive pressure. She has already shown that she can win titles. She has already shown that she belongs in the conversation with the best players in the world. Cincinnati did not erase any of that. If anything, it exposed just how far she has traveled in such a short period of time. A few months ago, the question was whether Eala could compete consistently against the biggest names in the sport. Now the concern is whether her schedule is allowing her enough time to recover from beating them. That is a very different problem to have. And perhaps the most revealing detail of the Cincinnati defeat is that Eala was still standing at 2-0 in the third set. Despite everything, she had created the opportunity to win. The exhaustion had not stopped her from fighting. It had simply reached its limit before the match did. That is why the six-game collapse should not be remembered only as a failure. It should be remembered as information. The body was sending a message. The schedule was sending a message. The Cincinnati court was sending a message. And now Eala has a chance to listen. The US Open could become the next chapter, but it will be a very different chapter if she arrives rested instead of exhausted. Imagine the difference. Instead of stepping onto the court carrying 8 matches in 12 days, she can arrive with fresh legs. Instead of fighting through accumulated fatigue, she can focus on strategy, movement, and execution. Instead of trying to survive another marathon, she can dictate the pace. And that is what makes Cincinnati so fascinating in hindsight. The loss looked like an ending, but it may actually be a reset. Anisimova got the victory. She earned the right to move forward. But Eala may have gained something that does not appear on the scoreboard. A brutally honest picture of what happens when ambition outruns recovery. The Filipina has become one of the most active and exciting players on the tour, but the next stage of her development may require learning when not to play as much as learning how to win. Great careers are not built only through victories. They are built through knowing how to protect the body that makes those victories possible. And at 21, Eala has plenty of time to learn that lesson. The Cincinnati defeat was painful because she was so close. She was 5 points from another top 10 victory. She was 2 games into the deciding set with the momentum in her hands. She had survived the 20-minute battle in the first set. She had already overcome the pressure. But tennis can be brutally unforgiving. Sometimes the final few points are not decided by who wants the victory more. They are decided by who still has enough energy left to execute when the moment arrives. Anisimova had enough. Eala, after everything she had played, apparently did not. And that is the shocking truth behind the collapse. It was not simply a player choking away a lead. It was the visible end of an invisible battle that had been building for weeks. Every tournament had taken something. Every long match had taken something. Every flight, every recovery session, every sprint, and every 3-set battle had taken something. Cincinnati simply became the place where the bill finally came due. Now, the question changes. Not whether Alex Eala can recover from Cincinnati, but what she will look like when she does. Because when she arrives in New York, she will have something she desperately needed. Rest. She will have time to recover, time to study, time to rebuild, time to turn frustration into motivation, and perhaps most importantly, time to remind herself that the player who conquered the world's best has not disappeared. She is still there. The Cincinnati defeat may have taken away another victory, but it did not take away the progress that brought her there. It did not erase her title. It did not erase her wins over elite opponents. It did not erase her 5-match streak. It did not erase the belief that she belongs on the biggest stages. If anything, it may have given her the clearest warning of her young career. Rest now, recover now, learn now, because the US Open is coming. And when Alex Eala walks onto the courts of Flushing Meadows, the story will no longer be about the 6 games she lost in Cincinnati. It will be about what she learned from them. The scoreboard in Cincinnati said Eala lost. The deeper story says something much more complicated. She was exhausted, overworked, and still fighting. She was pushed to the edge and still managed to lead 2-0 in the deciding set. That is not the profile of a player who has reached her limit as a competitor. It is the profile of a young champion, learning what it takes to build a career that lasts. The loss was brutal. The collapse was shocking. But perhaps this is the moment that changes everything. Because sometimes the most important victory of a season comes after the hardest defeat. And now, with nearly 2 weeks before the US Open, Alex Eala has the chance to turn Cincinnati's heartbreak into New York's fuel. The world will be watching to see whether the exhaustion disappears, whether the fire returns, and whether the Filipina star can step onto the biggest stage of the summer and remind everyone why they were watching her in the first place. Cincinnati may have ended with 6 straight games for Anisimova, but Alex Eala's story is nowhere near finished. In fact, it may be just getting started.